Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. It's a Masked Boomers. I'm Ward,
And I'm ice cream soda.
and today we're going to do a topic today, and we'll do some commenting up front to kind of prime your thought pumps so that you all might come up with some questions. But we're going to talk about going to college. And to get things rolling, each of us is going to talk about our experiences from whatever perspective we feel like talking about. And then we are going to be pretty direct today, other than talking about our experiences up front, because we're on a short runway today because we've got a scheduling commitment, but that we have to get to. But we didn't want to skip the week because we didn't want to go that long without having contact with you folks. So that being said, Soda, maybe you can kick us off today, talking about your college experiences.
Well, I wouldn't exactly say I had the most positive of college experiences. Um, I do think if there was a way you could leave home and still have an opportunity to sort of grow and mature a little bit more, coming right out of high school, I don't think anybody's really uh, well, I shouldn't say. I mean, a lot of people just really have no idea what they want to do.
Did you go a long way from home?
Oh, yeah. And there was never any, you were going to college. My parents had worked with the idea that they were going to provide you the opportunity to advance your education,
Yep.
which that was the belief at that time that that was the way you were going to get the better jobs or even get a job, period.
Yep.
And so you were going, but those were very I don't know, there was a lot going on because the whole Vietnam thing and all the protests and liberating,
Were
the
you in the midst of that stuff where you went?
yeah, they closed the school down with bomb threats.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know. Where was that?
That was the freshman year.
Ah,
And so we oh, let's see, maybe that was the second year. So that was 70, I think, because uh we were done. We didn't have exams. If your 2 years were done, because it was a junior college that I went to first, I didn't really want to go. I just felt like I was being forced to go. So um
uh,
yeah, the first year we had rules and sign-ins and permission slips to even leave the campus, blah blah blah. And then not even halfway through the year, I guess they dropped it all, canceled everything. So then it was like, oh, freedom. And
how did
then
that work out?
oh, I don't know. I mean, some kids handled it.
Yeah, how'd you do?
That was fine. I wasn't pushing I wasn't one of the people that was rebelling or pushing the envelope in any way. Um, was just kind of going about doing whatever, and I don't know. Then after 2 years, I didn't go back to school. I took a year and went and lived in Boston. Um, had an apartment, got a job,
Yep.
and um, all the time still being encouraged to continue my education. And now, instead of my mother pushing me into some sort of career that I didn't want, I ended up going into education, which is where I thought I wanted to be anyway. So
What would you do different if you were?
I don't know, because I didn't know what I wanted to. I mean, I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but that didn't go
Yeah.
along with what my mother wanted me to do.
Okay.
So that caused a conflict.
Yep. It's interesting because in my house, because of the immigrant roots, and not having the means. Not my parents. Neither one of my parents went. My mother didn't even finish high school, and my father never went to college. And so they too, like your folks, are saying, "Hey, you need to go to college." But when it then there were four of us, and me being the last one, they it became about economics. How do you do that? And given that they're the old country mentality, it was like, well, and when we get down to the end, I can remember this discussion with one of my with my sibling, she's just a little bit older than I am, that they weren't sure that necessarily she should go to college because they're saying, well, he's going to need to go because he's probably going to have to end up providing for a family, and so therefore it's more important that he get the college degree. That was one aspect of it, but the economic thing was still a big deal, and there was nothing left in the coffers at all when it came time for me. So in examining what I was going to do, I had an option that was good. Now again, this was right at the height of it was the implementation of the first draft for Vietnam, and I had a very low number. And so I was either going to go to school or I was going to get drafted. And so I ended up going to a military school, where you could graduate, you get a commission, but because you do that, it wasn't a federal one, it was a state school, and it ended up being something that I could afford, because in return for that, when you got your thing, you do reserve duty, et cetera, et cetera. And so that became a way I had to go, not because I thought, oh boy, this is what I want to do for my career, to your point, but it was something that just made sense. And of course I was going to graduate with an engineering degree, and so at least I felt like, okay, I've got something that I can probably market and do something with. And ended up, getting into electronics and stuff like that, but more in a sales, obviously a sales capacity. But it still did come, allow me to use my technical education, because at least I could understand terminologies and get involved in stuff like that. But I'm not, if faced with that same situation today, I wouldn't, obviously it would be a whole lot different decision process, and I would do a whole lot of stuff differently. So that's our story. Zzz.
Yeah.
Oh, a question that came in, it says, why do most jobs require college degrees?
Mm.
Do you want to take that first? I've got something too, but you can go ahead
No,
first.
you go ahead. I'm not sure. I mean, there are certain. I mean, obviously, medical professions. There's certain professions that you got to have additional study in your choice of a profession. But to say that all jobs require college degrees to me is a stretch.
Well, it wasn't a stretch to me, because having thought this way, even when I went to college, and then when I was hiring people, this became a lot clearer to me. And I was more interested, not unless it was highly specialized and you needed a specific kind of education to do what you're being asked to do, like a doctor or something like that. I was more interested in the fact that someone would say, okay, I'm committed to go doing this, and they completed it and they did it well, because it really was more indicative of how motivated they were, and if they were into something, even if they discovered, boy, this isn't necessarily what I wanted, but they didn't walk away from it, or they didn't abandon it. They completed the task that they had committed to do. And so from that perspective, You know, again, unless it's highly specialized, that's really what the fact that they went to college and completed a course of study and stayed the course. It was more indicative of that than it was of necessarily, you know, the particular education that they got in certain instances. But doing what you said you were going to do, and because that's important no matter which job you have.
Yeah.
I
Well,
didn't
but then
convince you,
there's
huh?
trade schools. I mean, there's various ways to advance and educate yourself that doesn't involve a college degree.
No, that's that. I have to agree with that. But I mean, when I think of some of the values of it, some of the values of it is just, you know, the ability to communicate well. I mean, look at, I mean, talk about today. There's people getting out of college, high school, college. They can't write at a sixth grade level. I mean, they can't even write a letter. They can't even communicate. So I
Oh,
mean, you have to learn. You have to learn how to organize your thinking, be able to write, be able to tell a story. And of course, back then, we didn't have the resource of the internet. I mean, it was paper and pen or typewriter, you know, and so you had to be able to do things like that, construct things, organize them, write them, and and college helped you do that because not everybody learned that in high school.
hmm.
So anyway, I'm sure you can always make a case for certain aspects of it that are very useful, but I think you know those are just a couple of thoughts I had. Most colleges just seem like dens of iniquity.
Hmm. Yeah. Lately, it seems like just a place to continue not growing up and becoming responsible.
And having the protection of people who'll shield you and not even let you, I mean, nobody, it's like if you're a parent these days, probably trying to find out how your kid's doing in school, they probably tell you to pound sand. Sorry, we're not going to invade their privacy.
Well, and what you think what some of these people are paying for their kids to be
Well,
in
that's
college.
exactly where I was going to go. I say, well, maybe you feel differently if I stop writing the checks, you know? So, so tell me what's going on. But there's no question that these days, if you send a child, a youngster or young adult off ill prepared or not with a good set of values, no one's going to be perfect. But boy, if they haven't got the ability to really resist
Peer
peer
influence.
influence, boy, they're going down. They're going to end up going down a wrong path. I mean, and those it's and those folks, the good folks never affect the bad ones. The bad ones always affect the good ones. You always get dragged down. That's just the way it is. And so, yeah, I think most colleges now, they're, I really don't think that they're placing the emphasis
Well,
on
and
really trying to teach people how to
some of these
think.
people aren't going to change just because they're out of college. They're going to continue, down those paths.
What do you mean?
Just because you do one thing in college, then you're out. That's
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to change
You're not going to suddenly become a
a
responsible adult.
person, right?
That's true. You might learn some of you rather than learning good habits,
You might have picked up some bad
you pick
ones.
up the wrong ones. Well, I think that's partly what you see sometimes in some of these when you read about folks now with their what was the best example was SpaceX, the recent thing where the employees wrote to the CEO and they complained about Elon Musk and he's an embarrassment to us and this and that. And to me, that's very sounds like very collegeist. Like, we're basically going to cancel a professor, right? We're going
Yeah,
to
we're going to
complain
get
and we're
them
going to get him fired.
right.
So here they write this thing to the CEO, this lady, CEO of SpaceX, and they start complaining about Elon Musk. Well,
Guess who hired?
they got a slightly different response.
Yeah.
Everyone who signed the letter got fired. Welcome to the big boy world, big
Well,
person world.
welcome to the real world. There's
I thought that was pretty funny.
plenty of people that can fill those jobs
I thought that was pretty,
and maybe do it better.
and are anxious to have them.
Yes.
and understand that they are working. It's not a democracy. It is
You
it is
sign on for
it's a
that form.
benevolent, what was the term we used to use? It's a benevolent dictatorship. And do not confuse the fact that I share information with you for having a vote in what we're going to decide. And that's the way it is. But you're right. They form some of those habits in college and think that they're going to tell the company they're going to work for how they're going to do their business.
Yeah. I'm only going to work 3 days out of the week.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're going to
Exactly.
pay me for a full week.
Yep. Absolutely right. So yeah, there's a lot of bad habits and a lot of lessons that they learn the hard way.
Hmm.
I gotta laugh at those though. I mean, because the fragile nature of some of them as they get out. A safe space. Let's see. I don't know if I see all of that. It says, is college just a method of gatekeeping and indoctrination?
Ooh, no, not anymore. Students are they're basically just looking at who can come and give lectures and who can't, and who
You
can.
mean the inmates are running the prison?
Yeah, they if they don't want somebody, they don't like what somebody's position is, and they're a guest speaker for something, and they decide, nope, we don't want this person.
True.
They start demonstrating and throwing a little hissy fit.
True, but where does that come from? If you go
Because
into the some of the classes that they have early on, some of these the activist professor who teaches them that, like, you don't have to welcome these people to our campus, you can get them thrown off. I think there is a very high degree of indoctrination that those kinds of professors, they force that on their students. We've I think of some of those stories that we were familiar with, where like the Christian kid in a biology class and being belittled by his professor in front of everybody. I mean, I think there is a lot of indoctrination and intimidation that goes on in schools because they're trying to force these kids to accept certain positions, not teaching them how to critically examine positions and decide for good reasons why they feel the way they feel or believe the way they believe. They're not teaching them to think.
yeah,
They're teaching them to not think. Just
well,
accept
but
it because I
as a
say so, because I'm the professor and I am very wise.
well, they should be looking over their shoulder because the students may decide they don't like.
They'll cancel you.
Yeah, I mean, they all of a sudden think they've got a lot of power with who's on campus and who isn't.
Well, and they've been and the trouble is that a lot of the administrations have kowtowed and they let them get away with it.
Well, yeah,
I mean, because at the end of the day, this is still about making money. But they want to put fannies and chairs at 60, 70, 80 grand a year.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah, it is about money
but I don't think
and
that,
donors,
yeah, and alumni, right?
alumni.
I think it's about indoctrination in a lot of things. So demonstrating and throwing fits is basically democracy. Though these whiny students are ironically very American. Read that again. Demonstrating and throwing hissy fits is basically democracy. Though these whiny students are ironically very American. I'm not sure why that's necessarily ironic, but I mean, democracy is having the ability
To have your opinion.
have your opinion and be able to say it. I think the difference is you say, okay, what's demonstrating and throwing a fit? You should be able to say anything. You shouldn't be able to threaten physically
Other
do anything
people's
to other
beliefs.
people. That you can't do. You can't pound somebody
Just
because
because
you don't like their opinion.
right, just because you don't like what they're saying doesn't mean you can attack them personally or get in their faces,
Just because
try to dram your opinion down their throats.
just because you're offended doesn't mean that you get to make them go away.
Right.
You know, being offended is part and parcel of democracy. And again, and demonstrating legitimate demonstrations, nothing wrong with that. But again, when it's about intimidation, when it's about threatening people or people's families, or trying to literally ruin their life, that's not democracy. That is absolutely not democracy. That's fascism. And and it's ironically the people who call everybody else fascists are usually the
ones.
fascists. Yeah, they don't even know they don't even understand. And that perhaps is the dangerous part. But and that last part of that question was talking about whiny kids. I mean, you should be able to complain about stuff and not whine. You should be able to make a reasoned argument why you don't like something and why you're not going to do something,
Yeah.
or why you'd like things changed. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but also be someone that's going to change it or make the changes.
Amen. Offer a solution.
Yeah.
It's only whining
If
if
you're
all you do is
just
complain and never say, and here's a suggestion I think that might help move things in another direction.
Right. Which even that doesn't go away. That there's adults that behave that way.
That's
so
life.
Let's not make this about just college students or young people.
We're laughing because we're in the midst where we live. We have the unfortunate condition for the first time in our lives of being in a community that has a homeowners association. And I have to tell you,
Don't do it.
Don't do
Ever
it.
do it.
Don't subject yourself
Yes.
to this. It's you talk about whiners and whining. And of course that's coupled with people all thinking they're the smartest person in the room.
Right.
So you got extreme arrogance, and a lot of people are successful and just complain. They believe that their civic duty is to point out everything that's wrong, and by doing so, they have served a purpose.
But they're also not the people who are doing anything
to help
change it.
Yeah, they do none of the work to try to make it
They're
better.
not constructive they're great at pointing things out, but not constructive enough to check things out to make it better.
I know it sounds fun, but that's the biggest fear I have about the indoctrination of college. We're so concentrating so much on safe spaces and don't offend anybody. My gosh, if you go through life that way, you never improve anything. You never try to fix anything. I mean, it's just it's. I mean, it's wasteful. It's just wasteful. You just assume if I don't like it, therefore it shouldn't exist, and nasty. I did have something else in my head, but it escaped me. It'll come back eventually. Let's see. What's that? That was what? And I'm assuming we're still talking about college. It said, what class would you teach?
Well, not knowing exactly all the classes that are out there these days.
Make it up. What would you teach if you could write it? If you could write the syllabus, I mean, what would you say they need to learn?
Mm-hmm. Think about that one.
Yeah, it's not an easy one.
Well, that's what class would you teach? I mean, my first thing is the history of the country, since there's so many young people that don't understand it.
You know what? I wasn't going in that direction, but that's an excellent idea.
Basis of a lot of the problems that we have today.
Well, you know what, and it's funny you triggered a thought, because as you're thinking of that came up with history, I was thinking of I would try to teach a class so that people could understand how to be part of an organism, a community, whether that's a company, but places where you need, in order to be successful as a whole, you need to be able to get along with other people and work with them when you don't always agree and you're not going to mesh but you still got to be able to do it.
Well, that could be said about the association.
Well, no, that's my point. But by triggering the history, when you said that, I think of comments that the founding fathers made, where they themselves were really flabbergasted that you could get those people, that they were all very strong, differing opinions on how the country ought to run and operate, and they were able to work together, get on the other side of it, and put what arguably is the greatest self-governing entity that has ever existed in the history of the planet to this point. And they pulled that off without being probably in complete disagreement when they started on how to do it.
Right.
And yet they did that. Trying to teach that ability, and, not that you have to invent a country, but teaching them to be able to think critically, give and take in terms of doing things without compromising principles. Maybe that's the thing. You have to. You can't give up on what you believe are right and wrong, but you got to find a way to meld your ideas and come up with something, and be able to do that without taking extraordinary offense or getting all ticked off or storming out. And I don't think that exists right now. That's why you have. I don't like it. I cancel you.
Yeah. I'm going to pick up my marbles and go home.
Yeah.
We've heard that one.
We have that one going on now. Someone
I'm done.
who quit the board of directors and said, "That's it. I do so much for this place, and that's it. I'm never doing anything else." And basically, I pick up my ball and go home. Serves no purpose.
Right.
So I would teach a class that allowed them to figure out how do I exist in a society where I know I'm not going to agree with everything, and I have to figure out a way to make it work and help it be productive. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's all my way.
True.
And you got to be able to accept that. And that's the part that all the snowflakes really can't, I don't think, can accept. When you got to start talking about safe spaces, that says it all. If you can't handle some stress, or you can't handle pressure,
There's not much you can handle.
There's not much you can do. You're not going to have a very successful career in anything. Do you recommend college to kids of today?
Boy. Well, so long as you're picking the school that you're going to for the right reasons. If you're looking for a party school, you might want to reevaluate why you're going to college.
Well, we're talking about, would we recommend it, not what they think. Would we recommend college to kids? If we had our R5 today, would we recommend they go to school? To your point, I'd be a lot more examine them and say, what are you intending to do? Why are you going to school? Where are you going and why? Where is it leading? What's your plan? And if you don't have a plan yet, you shouldn't go yet.
Yeah, but I think a lot of kids grow up a little bit more because they're not under their parents' supervision. They're forced to try to get along with whoever might happen to be their roommate the first year.
True.
And they've got to learn to problem solve.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't think you have that when you're living at home, because everything's just rolling with supervision.
I tell you, one of the things I would do though is, and maybe that's what your folks did. I wouldn't send them off to the big school at $60,000 a year.
Yeah, right.
I'd send them to the junior college for a couple of years.
Yeah.
To get their prerequisites done at a reasonable price, and get that experience and start the process going.
Right.
but not
As long as they're,
spend $100,000 a year.
yeah.
You know, because they can get the same. And in fact, you know, I would submit that at that school, you've got a much greater cross section of what the real planet is like, as opposed to those people with all the advantages and resources
To go to
of
the,
wealth to go to the very expensive school.
right.
They don't have a realistic they don't have a realistic perspective of the world as they enter that kind of ivory tower.
Sure.
So, you know, I think so. Yeah, if they go, but I would send them to a different one. And again, of course, as you said, if someone's going to be highly specialized, you know, and,
That you
and
got
that's
to
where they're
start
going to
right
go,
in.
you got to go right after that. You got to go right after that.
Right.
So, like most things, it's not always a simple answer. If you could do it over, would you have studied something different, or would you have even still gone to college at all?
Yeah, I would have done it differently. I would have studied something different. And it would have required college because it would have been in the medical field as opposed to
Okay.
education.
Okay. That's good. I would have not had so technical an education. I wouldn't have gone with the idea of getting a degree. I would have done I don't much care for them, but I would have done the go and drop out approach. I would have gone and taken very focused economic and specific business or business development courses to get some rudimentary stuff, and then quit, and then presumably use the money that would have gone into this to start a venture of my own.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean it would have worked the first time or at all, but that's what I would have done. I would have gotten what I needed, and then move on. It's a great plan. I should have done that.
Yeah, but you look at it now because of where you ended up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
And the business degree or business classes would have helped.
Yep. Yeah, I squeezed a lot out of the fact that I didn't have a business education.
Well, yours was a hands-on learning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Plus, they
exactly
put you
right.
through a training club. They did put you through
Some stuff, yes.
some stuff. So,
Right. That's true. Let's see, what do we have there? Well, I think that yeah, this topic actually still has a lot of meat left on the
yeah.
bone. So I think what we'll do is we'll plan on doing this topic again. Uh, I know it's been a kind of a shortened thing, but I appreciate everybody being here. And again, you know, if there's other folks you'd like us to engage with or talk to, or you could share our stuff with them, please do so. Subscribe. Make sure that you set your alarm bell so that you get notified when we're on. And I think
There's a lot you can teach yourselves these days with there's so many things out there now available
that's true.
resource wise
If
that
if you if
if
you're
you
yeah, if
spend
you've
if
got
you
the
put
determination,
you put the
yeah,
time in to study just a certain area or
yes,
topic, you can become fairly knowledgeable in it. I think they said if you spent 3 hours every day for like 2 or 3 years, you'd be considered
oh really?
a authority,
I
like
didn't hear that. That's interesting. On
uh,
on you mean on one subject and
subject.
just absorb
Right,
it. Oh, that's
right.
interesting. Huh.
But then there's so much. We were just talking about that too, about apprenticing.
Yes.
Like if you're a builder and you work with a
Right.
builder and you
Yep.
learn the trades, and then the next thing you know, you branch out because you feel confident
Right.
to do your own business, or an electrician, or
Yep.
a plumber, or what was that
Well,
other
you can
one?
do that with
Steel. What
anything.
was that other
You can do
the guy that was it welding or something?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes, exactly. That's a lucrative
Yeah,
job.
but you got to spend time with somebody learning
Oh,
it.
you have to do several thousand
You're not going to
hours.
get that out of a book
You do several thousand hours as an
or
apprentice.
college.
But once you, yeah, right. You're handing a guy welding rods as he's welding for thousands of hours. But at the end of the day, when you're certified and off you go, you make a fortune.
Yeah.
And there are very, very few skilled craftsmen, and I call them, those are craftsmen.
They are craftsmen.
Yeah,
Anybody that
yeah.
we've had in to do a job that's good
Yep.
takes pride in what they're
And
doing
and
and cares about how it looks when they're done.
And you know what the good thing is? Those are all things that when you learn them, you can take care of yourself. And I don't mean just from an economic standpoint. You can build things. You can create things. You don't need society. You don't have to go to a store and buy everything. You can make things and take care of yourself. It's like farmers. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, again, anything that and I don't want to do it disrespectfully, but anything that allows you to have some of that self-sufficiency and ability to provide for yourself, if you're if you're industrious, those are good skills to have, and they're in high demand too.
Right.
High demand. Anyway, well, we don't want to restart this.
So yeah,
we'll be
college
talking
isn't
about this
necessarily
again.
the answer for everyone.
Right.
To
But
sum it up.
we'll talk about we'll talk about this again. Thanks everybody. We appreciate your being here.
Yeah, we'll be seeing you in a week.
In a
right?
week. Yes.
Yeah.
I think we're here next
think
week.
we're good.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
See you later.